we did 3 record-breaking deals, starting with Tua, then Jordan Love, and then Dak, all record-breaking deals in their own right.
I mean, it was amazing. I mean, to do 3 top quarterback deals, historic quarterback deals in the same year, it's never been done before either. You know, I mean,
Right.
it's mind-boggling. It's awesome, but mind-boggling.
Right.
Welcome to the first episode of the Athletes First Family Podcast, the quarterback series. I am Brian Murphy, CEO of Athletes First, and this is my trusted sidekick, co-host, AJ Stevens. AJ is the VP of Client Strategy at Athletes First, and some would argue the best negotiator in our business. We'll see about that throughout this series, but welcome, AJ.
Thanks, Murph. I'm excited to be here, honored to be here, and I'm just honored, really excited to tell the story of Athletes First Family with you.
Yeah, it's going to be great. As you know, I was one of the people who started Athletes First in 2001, which is 24 years ago. And the last 24 years has been a ride, a journey we could have never imagined. All kinds of ups and downs, peaks and valleys, wins and losses. But as we sit here today doing our first podcast, I can say with utmost confidence that Athletes First, by basically any metric, is the largest and most successful football agency in the history of our industry, which is crazy to say, but it's true. And why don't you give me some facts to back that up?
Yeah, I mean, you and many agents are known for hyperbole at times.
Yep.
So
Also Irish, so it helps.
I did some digging,
Thank you.
pulled out the books, and went through all of our numbers. We have $5.3 billion in active NFL contracts on our books right now. So these
Wow.
are deals that we've negotiated that are still active contracts that players are playing under right now.
And I can tell you that blows away any projections, financial projections we've done in the last 2, 3, 4 years, and was not even in our minds 24 years ago. So it's a good place to be.
Yeah, and in 2024 alone, we did $2.9 billion in player contracts. So,
Wow.
record-breaking deals across the board, first-round picks, you name it. Those are the guys who we represented this year, negotiated deals for, and all of their contracts combined to make a record-breaking number of $2.9 billion negotiated in 2024.
That's incredible. And we also made history. David Mullighetto, one of our agents, did over $1 billion of deals himself or with the team, which is unheard of. Former intern of Athletes First, as we'll get into now, superstar. I know those are mind-boggling numbers, right? But let's break it down into players. Like how have our players, what kind of players do we represent?
Yeah, and in 2024, we did a number of record-breaking deals.
Yeah.
The quarterbacks, for example,
Yep,
which is the reason that we're here to talk about quarterbacks on this series. We did 3 record-breaking deals, starting with Tua, then Jordan Love, and then Dak, all record-breaking deals in their own right.
I mean, it was amazing. I mean, to do 3 top quarterback deals, historic quarterback deals in the same year, it's never been done before either. I mean,
Right.
it's mind-boggling. It's awesome, but mind-boggling.
Right.
Fun.
But we are not just a quarterback
Sure.
agency.
No, plenty
We
of other
represent
positions.
players at every position. And another position that we broke a record at was safety this year. So Antoine Winfield Jr., as a client of ours, we negotiated his deal. He became the highest paid defensive back in NFL history, which is the first time that a safety was able to hold that title.
That's crazy. The other part of that is, earlier in our careers, we did the highest paid safety deal for Harrison Smith, right, with the Vikings, who played with Antoine's dad when he first started his career. So it shows you how long we've been doing this. But I also think currently, we represent 5 of the 6 highest paid safeties in the NFL, right?
That's right. Yep.
And we have a couple safeties coming up. We're going to join that top 5. One of them probably join the number 1. So safety, defensive backs and safety has been good to us.
Yeah, we've got plenty of talent waiting for their time to get their deal as well.
How about cornerback?
Oh yeah, we're good. We're good there too. Cornerback this year, Jalen Ramsey. We made him the highest paid corner in NFL history for the second time in his career.
Yep. 2 Brinks trucks, and I think we made him or he made himself the highest paid by just being an amazing player. I mean,
Yeah, he's amazing player, great dude. And then offensive tackle, another spot that we broke a record at in 2024. Penei Sewell became the highest paid tackle in NFL history,
Yep.
which is monumental in its own right. But when you consider that he's only played right tackle in the NFL up to this point, it's the first time that a right tackle has ever held the title of highest paid tackle in NFL
Yes.
in the NFL.
Amazing. And when you think of offensive linemen, highest paid offensive linemen, Pro Bowl offensive linemen, first round offensive linemen, you think Joe Panos, one of our equity partners, played offensive line himself, Hall of Fame, Wisconsin, 7 years in the pros, not a great pro, but, played 7 years in the pro. And we're going to get into some of his success in another series. Doesn't do a lot of quarterbacks, but he's just he's a phenomenal agent with and does a great job with offensive linemen.
Yeah, and speaking of Joe Panos, another one of his clients, Robert Hunt, he signed the largest contract for a guard free agent in NFL history this year. So another record breaking deal in its own right for Joe this year
Yeah.
and for Athletes First.
Yeah, Big Rob, his story coming out of high school, not even knowing how to play football. It's an amazing story. Probably one we'll get to in a different series and different podcast. But every individual you just mentioned, phenomenal human beings too. I mean, awesome, just great people. So we are blessed, and 2024 was a great year. Santa was good to us.
Yeah, but we don't have to just look at 2024, right?
Okay.
Like we can go back through the history of Athletes First and see all of the clients that have come through and become a member of the Athletes First family and remain a member of the Athletes First family.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we can go back and look at, there's 11 Hall of Famers who are a member of the Athletes First family.
That's amazing. One of them being John Lynch, who we represented as a safety, and then we represented as a broadcaster, and now we work with as a GM and negotiate with as a GM. And, he epitomizes what the Athletes First family is all about. He's a tremendous human being and someone we're very proud of.
Right. And taking it another step, 122 Pro Bowl players have been a member of the Athletes First family, represented by Athletes First over our career.
Yeah, take that from John Lynch to last year's Pro Bowl where Kyle Hamilton made his debut. Another safety, who don't know about Hall of Fame, but certainly Pro Bowler right now, maybe a Super Bowl champion soon. So,
Right.
It's been great.
Yeah, and then what many say is the most prestigious award in the NFL, the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award. It exemplifies service that these players give to their communities. We represented 5 of those winners as well.
Yep. Most recently, Dak Prescott, who had a great celebration afterwards with Julie and Todd. But you talk about Dak Prescott, we're going to talk about him being the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. And I think if you ask Dak, if you ask people close to Dak, what's more impressive, that contract or the Walter Payton Award? I think most people say the Walter Payton Award. And he's a phenomenal quarterback, an unbelievable leader. But the impact he's had on Dallas and other communities is mind blowing. It's again, another person we're very lucky to have part of the Athlete First family.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a great quarterback, great person. It's exemplified by that sticker that he gets to wear on his jersey, showing the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award.
That's awesome.
And we can take it a step further and say there's 119 first-round picks have been represented by Athletes First over the years.
Yeah, for the last 5 years, we've had more first-round picks than any other agency. Which is great. It's awesome. We've had phenomenal drafts, and that's one way that you continue to build up the numbers that you talked about earlier. Is go out and get those first-round picks and they get to their second deals, and those are pretty big deals.
That's right. And having great players, just helps us to negotiate great contracts,
Absolutely.
right?
No doubt.
And going one step further down the road in a career for a player, they start coming out of college, they go to an all-star game, and what we think is the highest level of all-star game for players who are coming into the league is the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, absolutely.
And over the last 5 years, we've had 55 of our clients play in that Senior Bowl game, which is, by far the most for an agency in the NFL.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a great standard, great measurement to see what type of players that we're getting coming out of college. And obviously they've done a great job with Senior Bowl over the years, really made it some place where a lot of players want to be and where we want our players to go. And that's a great stat. And, all these stats kind of support what we're saying. It's just put our heads down for 24 years, worked as hard as we possibly could, pushed it, disrupted the industry, and here we are, and we're talking about the football department here, but obviously we have a great coaching department, represent front office personnel, college coaches, NFL coaches. We have a phenomenal broadcasting department, sales and marketing. We got offices in New York, Atlanta, Gainesville, Texas, out here. It's just it's all come together in a way that we could have never imagined, and that's what we're going to talk about here on this podcast series and others, hopefully.
Yeah, well, I think that's a great summary of Athletes First. From a 10,000-foot view, maybe even higher than that. And I know you're very proud of that, but I think a lot of the people who are going to be listening to this are going to be interested in, your personal background as well, and personal and business background, and how you kind of got here.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you did a great job telling the people, the listeners, some of the facts, but as we know, Athletes First Family is about the people, right? And so, being one of the founders, I'll give you a little bit of my background. I'm going to do a quick a quick summary of the background because some later podcast episodes will do a deeper dive. But yeah, again, Brian Murphy, born and raised in Boston. Never thought I'd end up in Southern California. Went to the University of Notre Dame. I was a psychology major. Graduated in 1992. Went immediate to law school. I was graduated from Harvard Law School in 1995 and got what another dream job at the time. I went to go be a litigator at Ropes and Gray, which is one of the biggest law firms in the country. Had a great 4 years at Ropes and Gray. Really enjoyed it. Learned from the best lawyers in the country. Learned the value of like meticulous preparation and going above and beyond to win the case, win the argument, win the deposition. Writing, thinking, arguing, negotiating. I mean, literally learned from the best of the best and had a great 4 years there and thought I was going to just stay there forever. I was married to my wife, Lauren. She was pregnant, 7 months pregnant at the time. And I got a job offer to, come out to California, Southern California, Newport Beach, and go to work for Steinberg, Moret and Dunn, which was at the time was the largest football agency in the world and also the second largest baseball agency, I believe. So, never thought I'd do this, but my wife and I, Lauren, we moved out to Southern California. I really didn't even know where it was. I knew USC was here from the Notre Dame days, but moved out and I spent a little under 2 years working for SMD, Steinberg, Moran and Dunn. Did everything you could as an agent on both. Did some baseball, did mostly football. I did some special projects, business development. And had a phenomenal 2 years, but 2001, for a myriad of reasons, Dave Dunn and I decided to leave and start Athletes First. And as we'll talk about in the next episode, Drew Bledsoe was our first client, and we started it in 2001. And throughout this series and other series, we're going to tell what happened over the next 24 years. But that's my background. AJ, what about you?
Yeah, obviously less time in the industry, so I got to go back a little bit further to start.
Sure.
But I grew up a three-sport athlete in high school. Kind of got burnt out. Went to college. Thought I was just going to be a regular person. Got the itch to get back into sports immediately, and started looking at law schools and specifically law schools that had a sports law program. That led me to New Orleans. So a kid who's grown up in Minnesota, spent my whole life there, moved to New Orleans, a little bit of a culture shock, but Tulane Law was exactly where I needed to be because it had the program and everything that I wanted to get into sports. While I was there, I started this competition. It was a legal, mock negotiation for law students where they would sit down and they would negotiate NFL contracts across from each other. The big draw of this was I was going to get people like you and people around the industry to come in and sit and judge and network with me, hopefully,
Yeah.
and other students at the school. So that was my first foray into trying to be an NFL
A
personnel.
great program. Unbelievable program. How many years has it been around now?
10 years. This last year was the 10th anniversary of it. So
Wow.
they gave me an award for
Nice.
starting it. So
Nice.
that was pretty cool.
And our first interaction ever was 10 years ago. I mean, 10 years ago, right?
Well,
When
yeah, because I had invited you, your assistant had committed for
Yep.
you, and then the week of the competition, I got an email from your assistant saying, "Brian didn't realize this is the week of the Senior Bowl. He's no longer to attend." I no longer had a big name
Yeah.
judge to come in and sit on it. We found some replacements, but
Easy to do.
right, you're not the only big
Yep.
time judge who has bailed on me over the 2 years that I ran it, though. And so, that was my kind of catalyst to building a network with NFL personnel. It helped lead into an internship with the Washington Redskins. I worked directly with the vice presidents of the team who oversaw the salary cap, player contracts, everything.
Eric Schaefer.
Eric Schaefer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great
Within a
guy.
week of being there, I realized this is exactly what I want to spend the rest of my life doing.
Wow.
So I, took that experience, that network that I had built up over those years of law school, over the competition, and kind of parlayed it into having a position where, I had some teams that were calling me about positions they had in their salary cap departments. I flew to three different teams. I sat down with them. I listened to, what the role would be. At one point I sat down with one team's GM for about 3 minutes, which, 3 minutes, I will take that.
Yeah.
But the whole pitch for me from him was, you're going to do all the jobs that none of us want to do, and we're going to pay you almost nothing. And then I went to Tampa. Jason Light, who is, I'm a big fan of his.
Huge
He,
fan.
he sat down with me for over 30 minutes talking about, our family, our upbringing, just getting to know me as a person. And leaving Tampa, I was like, well, this is an easy decision for me. I'm moving to Tampa Bay. I'm going to work in their front office, and it was great. I went there and did all the things that no one wanted to do, and I got paid very little.
Yep.
But I felt good about the people I was working with and everything I was doing there.
I think that's a great story. I mean, like, shout out to Tulane because they've done a great job of that negotiation seminar. I was there last year with my gold jacket and finally got to judge and make up to my mistake 10 years earlier. But shout out to you too. Like that, I mean, you want to get in this industry. That's what you need to do, right? You need to move with purpose. Like, go to Tulane with a purpose. Start the whole negotiating seminar with a purpose, and then go meet people with a purpose. Not just to say hello, shake hands, and be, oh wow, that's a general manager, but like, know that you want to meet these people and create a favorable impression so you can get a job. So, and Jason, awesome. We both love Jason. We could have a whole podcast series about our not incidents, but our episodes with Jason. So what did you do there? What did you do at Tampa?
Yeah, so my role was specifically to work on all things salary cap, collective bargaining agreements, player contracts. There were some operational type things. So I really got to have a hand in a lot of different aspects of the football business. And this went on for 4 great years with the team. We weren't great on the field, but we it was a lot of fun. I learned a ton, and in my last couple months in Tampa is when I got to be a part of the recruitment, I'll call it, of Tom Brady.
Yeah.
And obviously, that you have this guy who was playing in the NFL since you started Athletes First.
Yeah.
Has won at the time 6 Super Bowls. Arguably the greatest of all time non-athletes first client,
Yep.
probably.
No doubt.
And so the recruitment process of getting him to Tampa is something I could probably do a whole podcast series about, or
Sure.
at least an episode. But that was an amazing experience. During that whole time, I was, kind of behind closed doors getting recruited to come work on the agency side of the business by Todd France, who is a guy that we're definitely going to get into. He's going to be on the series with us here.
Equity partner at Athletes First,
Right.
All-time legend.
Yeah. And so at the time, he's the number 1 most powerful agent according to Forbes.
Yep.
So when he calls, I'm picking up, and I'm trembling a little bit, thinking like, what are you calling about? Which client? Am I going to get it?
Yep.
MF'd or something?
Sure, yeah.
And it turns out he just wanted to talk for 45 minutes about how I should come work for him the first time he cold called me.
Wow.
So that went on for months. At the time, it was
one of the greatest recruiters of all time is now recruiting you.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
So it was pretty surreal. This went on for probably close to 6 months before I finally said, you know what? I know we have Tom Brady. I know we have Rob Gronkowski. I think we have a Super Bowl winning team. And I think at one point I said this to him. I was like, I think we have a great roster. Like, how can I leave a potential Super Bowl winning team? And he said to me, Tom Brady's 43 years old. He could be in a wheelchair by the end of the year. All my friends in the industry tell me that they're going to win the Super Bowl every year, and only one of them ever does. So, like, do you want to do that, or you want to come over and work for me and exponentially grow your career? So as you said, he's an amazing recruiter. He recruited me over.
But to be clear, he recruited you at the time. He was running the football department at CAA, not Athletes First. So,
right. Yeah. So I thought I was going to work at CAA.
Sure.
And I did go work at CAA for a month. And this is in the middle of COVID, by the way, the first year of COVID.
Sure.
So I'm finally moving to Atlanta from Tampa. On the day that I arrive in Atlanta, 10 p.m., Todd calls me and says, hey, just so you know, I'm leaving CAA. Yep. I had no idea this was coming. I, was in a little bit of shock. Like, I just gave up what I had thought was my dream job. I thought was a Super Bowl winning team potentially, and gave all that up to come work with you. And now you're leaving.
Yeah.
So this was a tumultuous period for a while.
A little awkward. Yeah.
Until, he had decided he was going to Athletes First. And he said, I want you to sit down with you.
Yep.
And one of our other equity partners, Trace.
Yep.
And just have a conversation with him, because, he really wanted me to come work with him as well.
Yeah.
Still.
I remember him calling and saying, listen, and Todd's a very loyal person, and he had some great people around him, but he had told me the story and said, I need you to meet with AJ Stevens and interview him. Like, for what position? He said, oh, he's a great negotiator. And I'm like, I'm a great negotiator. I mean, we're all great negotiators. Like, what do we need another negotiator for who's not going to have his own clients, right? He said, well, just sit down and talk to him. And I remember sitting down and talk to him. And remember, I asked you, All right, what's your goal? What's your dream? What's your utopia? Because that's what we like to do with people we bring on board. And what was your answer? What is your goal?
I think I just flat out told you I wanted to be the greatest negotiator in the NFL now on this side of the table.
Yeah. And in my mind, I didn't say this out loud. But I'm like, this is the last place you could come because not because we don't do that, but we already are have the best negotiators, and we all negotiate as a team for the clients that we have. And if you don't have any clients, it can be hard to integrate you into that process. And I told Todd that, and Todd, as he does, he had a different vision, he has a different way of doing things. He explained his way of doing things, and he said, "Listen, I will do whatever it takes with my own contract to, make sure that we get AJ here." Which was big, huge of him, and I took advantage of it. No, but and so ultimately, you came and you joined the Athletes First family, and I say this, Todd, hopefully listen to this podcast. Like he was 100% right, you were 100% right, I was completely wrong. You have transformed how we do contracts, and I think, as we'll talk about in the series, I think you've already achieved your goal of being the greatest negotiator on our side of the table. So it's that's one of the times I'm glad I was wrong, but it was great. It was great.
Oh, well, that it's great to hear. I'm honored to hear it from you, who's been in the industry for so long. But we've done a lot of amazing things together. We've negotiated record-breaking deals. We've done a tailgate tour. But this is new. This podcast is new. And so, why are we here? What are we doing?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, AJ, and I think that it's important to start the podcast by saying, like, over the last 25 years, 24 years, Athletes First has intentionally stayed out of the press. We don't talk to the media. We don't really return media's calls. We ignore all those accolades that the publications do. Pay us for some advertising. We'll give you an accolade. We just we put our head down 24 years ago, and we said our goal is to be the best family, the best agency that Athletes First can be. And if we do that, we know we'll be the best in the industry, but we don't have to worry about the rest of the industry. Just put our head down. We don't need articles. We don't need PR. We don't need anything. Just do it. Right. And so the last 25 years, we spent our time trying to be the best that we could be. And then we do that a couple ways. We have this great internship program. I think, 30% of our current employees came up through the internship program. So we grew our own talent. Like we developed our own talent, like David Mulugeta, who's, now is also number one on Forbes. Ryan Williams, one of our equity partners, who'd be a guest on the podcast. Justin Schulman did Justin Herbert's deal. Kyle McCarthy, who's a legend both on the coach's side and the player's side. Like we raised our own, developed our own, but at the same time, over 24 years, we started going out and said, hey, listen, all the goats in the industry, the Trace Armstrongs, the Todd Francis, the Joe Panos, Andrew Kessler, Sean Kieran, and why don't you come take a look at the way we're doing things? Because we do things differently here. We're a family. We work together, collaborate. We're our own company, independent. We're not a big, huge conglomerate. And they all came over. Like everyone we talked to, they came over. And so that's what we've spent the last 24 years doing, building this amazing family, this amazing team, and just doing the work and doing the work. And then kind of lift up our heads after 2.5 decades and whoa, look at all the numbers that you said, that's us, that you're talking about us, and not to mention the tailgate tour and the Athletes First Training Academy and all these disruptive things we've done that we'll talk about through the podcast series. And so I'm getting old too, 54 years old. So after 2.5 decades, it's all right, we've surpassed our wildest dreams. We've climbed the highest mountains, and now we still have more mountains to climb, which we're excited to do. But maybe we take time to kind of share our story, right? And we're certainly not doing the podcast. Anyone who knows us, we're not doing the podcast to pat ourselves on the back or to flex our muscles or our success. But Athletes First family is everything to me. My own family, Athletes First family, means everything to me. And I think to me, when I was approached about this podcast, I'm like, you know what? This gives us the opportunity to exponentially expand the Athletes First family. We can reach people, maybe reach this, anyone listen to it, your parents, my parents listen to it, right? We can reach the listeners, and we can share with them our company philosophies. We can go through the last 24 years. We talk about our wins, but also talk about our losses and what we learned from those losses. We can dive into our company philosophies and our maxims, like better together and athlete first and do the right things with the right people for the right reasons. And we show how when you create those philosophies and you stick to them and you live them, you can achieve anything you want. So this, AJ, right? This is way outside our comfort zone. And when we talk to some of our equity partners and other people who are going to come on as guests, they're like, what? No, I don't want to do that, right? But when we explain the why, the purpose, kind of like when I talk to you about your purpose at Tulane, the purpose of this is, we want to share our story. I think this story can help others. I think it can help people who don't even want to be sports agents, right? And I think if you look at where we are now, like, oh wow, they've always no, we haven't always been here. It's been hard. It's been really hard to get here, right? But this is how we got here. These are our this is what led us to this success. And it just the more people that we can impact, the more people we can benefit, the more people we can welcome into the Athletes First family, the better off we'll be. So it might be 10, it might be more than 10, I don't know. But that's why we're here, very strange. I understand. But I think it's I'm excited about it. And I know you are too. But we made the decision. We're going to start with the quarterback series, right? Athletes First Family quarterback series. Why are we doing it? Why are we starting with the quarterback series?
Well, I think the main reason we're doing the quarterback series first is because we've had all this recent success and a history of success at the position. So, I mean, currently, 4 of the top 7 highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL are Athletes First clients. 5 of the top 11 highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL are Athletes First clients. All deals that have been negotiated in the last couple of years. You can start with Dak Prescott as the highest paid, Jordan Love is the second highest paid, Tua is the third highest paid, Herbert's number 7, and Deshaun's number 11. But every time those guys signed, they were record-breaking deals.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of who's up next that is one of our clients.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the fun part of those deals, well, I think Tua is probably the 5th highest, not the 3rd highest, but the fun part of those deals is that those deals, you were involved with every one of the deals, right? I mean, you negotiate all of them, but like we had different agents doing it, right? Like Ryan Williams did Tua, Justin Schulman did Justin Herbert, David Mulligetta did Jordan Love with Andrew Kessler, and then David Mulligetta also did Deshaun Watson. Not Dak, Todd and yourself did Dak. So we have all these different super agents working towards the same common goal. Let's do a historic NFL quarterback deal, but they're all so different, right? I mean, very different.
No doubt. They all have different backgrounds,
Yep.
Different, back upbringings, different styles.
Yep.
The way that one agent wants to negotiate is, completely different than the way another agent wants to negotiate.
Yep.
And being able to be involved in all of those and see those different styles and kind of adapt how I work based on their style and how they want to approach teams. It's been eye-opening for me, and I think it's something that people are definitely going to want to hear about.
I haven't myself had to negotiate with all those agents for the employment contracts and whatnot. I can tell you their styles are completely different, but they all work.
Yeah, I was going to say, speaking out of getting out of their comfort zone, a number of them actually approached me to see if I would negotiate their deal to appear on the podcast. So we may be talking about that after after this one airs.
There's no appearance fees. But no, so tell the listeners, like, what can they expect to hear? Like, what are we going to talk about?
Yeah, so I mean, we're going to dive into a lot of different questions that are constantly asked of us. How the conversations go when we have a player who should be the next highest paid quarterback. How do we go about approaching the team? Does the team just automatically agree, yeah, we should definitely make him the highest paid? Or what is that process like? How do the conversations go when we have a player who, maybe hasn't been to a Pro Bowl, doesn't have the accolades, and we're coming to the team saying he should be the highest paid? I don't care about that type of stuff.
Yep.
How do the conversations go when, the person you're negotiating with is not just the GM or the salary cap person, but the owner of the team?
Right.
Those things can make the dynamic of the conversations much different.
Which is another good point. Like not only different agents, the agents are all different. The clients are different. Like Tua is not exactly the same as Justin Herbert, not exactly Dak Prescott, but the teams with whom we're negotiating are completely different. Like the Packers don't even have an owner, right? And then so like the Cowboys have a pretty famous owner, right? Who's intimately involved with it. And so, we'll go through all the teams and all the, and again, like much respect, unbelievable respect. I mean, all the general managers, capologists, Mike Greenberg, we should have thrown that out there, right? Don't want to leave Greeny out. The owners, like I mean, there's the 31 NFL owners, right? I mean, those are the best of the best. So huge respect. It's a privilege to be able to work with them, honor to be able to talk to them, but they're all different. And so we're going to get into, how, what we see from when we're dealing with the different teams as well.
Yeah. And every personality of these people we're talking to is much different. So some of the negotiations can be very friendly. Someone that you go way back with, it might be more casual. You can talk about the numbers, but sprinkle in some jokes.
Yep.
Some of them are going to be very tense. And some of the counterparts that we're negotiating with, they're not going to be very happy with us throughout the process, at the end of the process. But at the end of the day, we have a mutual respect for each other that, maybe a few days has to go by before we can come back and talk to them again. But it's a small industry and we know that. And that's why we keep a level of respect in all of our conversations.
I think it'd also be fun to dive into, like, this is for maybe the nerds out there, but like, big, huge NFL contracts, not just about signing bonus, not just about average per year APY, right? But there's a lot of different components. and got to figure out which components are important to the team, which components are important to the players. But I think you're going to walk us through all those nerdy contract details, right?
Yeah, I'm not gonna bore anybody, but
Mhm.
we will definitely sprinkle in all of those different aspects of each deal that we're going to discuss, as well as, some other aspects that or other deals that will come up in our conversations for sure. For example, like how does a player like Deshaun Watson end up with a fully guaranteed contract when no one else has one?
Right.
That was something that is very unique. It's a great conversation that, we can hopefully peel back the onion and share some details with the audience too.
Yep. Yep.
And
Yep. No, it's good. It's gonna be a great series. Again, what we're gonna do, we're gonna share our stories, right? We're gonna share our experiences, and we're not saying that we do it the best, we do it the right way, but we do it our way. We've had a lot of success doing it, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. But also on each podcast, we're gonna end each podcast with kind of lessons learned, right? And for us, it could be lessons learned during the last half hour together, lessons learned from the last 24 years, but and it's all done sua sponte, top of the head, and you make me go first. So I'll say here's my lesson learned for this one, right? Like when we started this company, it was a no-brainer to call it athletes first. We always wanted to put the athletes first, right? And I think that's one reason this podcast is, so far outside of our comfort zone because we're going to be talking about our clients. We were talking about the great contracts they have, the great people they are, the Walter Payton Awards and whatnot. But it's you and I it's not the athletes on the podcast, it's us on the podcast, and it's going to be our partners and our associates on the podcast. And that's uncomfortable, and it's not, we don't like to be in front of the camera. We like to be in back of the camera watching our players make all the money and make all the plays. But, I think it's, we can, throughout 24 years, I know I have grown and our company has grown by doing the uncomfortable, like by leaving our comfort zone behind and growing as a person and as a company. And I think, hopefully to me, this podcast series, will help myself grow, become a bit better at what I do as a CEO, help athletes first grow, help yourself grow, everyone else comes on the show grow. And also maybe we can help some listeners out there understand what we do and how we do it and why we've had the success we've had. So, that's my lesson learned right from episode one. I much rather put the athletes first and be behind this mic, but we'll have some fun and we'll get after it.
yeah, so my takeaway, I'm gonna just use one of my anecdotes that I just told you, or that you actually brought to my attention while we were talking about it. And it's, this is a small industry. A goal of our podcast here is to make sure that we aren't burning any bridges with anyone around the industry. So,
Sure. Yep.
we're not going to get on here and brag about, this deal is so good. We had that team over a barrel,
Yep.
which, I can relate to because when you ghosted me 10 years ago for my negotiation
Yep.
competition, I certainly could have held a grudge, but
Yep.
when I got the opportunity to sit down with you and interview essentially to be a member of the Athletes First family, I was more than happy to. I was honored to be in that situation. And so I think that's a takeaway of mine that I've been told year over year. And, I always think about it in the small industry that this is.
And now that we work together, you fully believe and understand how I messed up the schedule. Like it wasn't an intentional slight. It's just, details weigh me down sometimes, AJ,
Yeah.
so
Timing, what your calendar looks like, you don't know until it comes up usually.
yes,
So,
yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to have a lot of fun. It's going to be great. I can't wait to bring our partners on. I can't wait to, expand other series, but, it's a great start. I'm fired up for this. I appreciate you taking the time to come out to Orange County to do this with me. And, our next episode is going to just be the two of us again, but we're going to be talking about the beginning of Athletes First and the aforementioned Drew Bledsoe and how he helped us start our company and how we've really been working with top tier quarterbacks from the very beginning, starting with Drew Bledsoe, Joey Harrington, Carson Palmer, and then after that we'll bring in our other agents and talk about the deals that we did last couple of years. So it's gonna be fun. Appreciate you, AJ, and we'll see you next time.
yeah, fired up. Let's go.
Awesome.